What is up everyone, and welcome to my video where I discuss ideas and improvement for Kirby Air Ride 2. So I've been waiting to do this for quite some time and thought now would be a good time if anything. But before I get into the nitty gritty, let me give a quick rundown on what Kirby Air Ride is so I can refresh everyone's mind. So yeah, basically Kirby Air Ride, the best way I can describe it is a racing and a party game with more emphasis on the latter than the former. It was released on the GameCube back in 2003 and it offered 3 different modes for us to experience. These modes were Air Ride, your standard racing mode, Top Ride, a top-down race mode where you race on a miniature-sized course, and the objectively best mode in the game, City Trial, which is a battle royale mode where you beef up your stats before taking on your foes in a stadium match. Before I delve into these modes and discuss some ideas that would add to the Kirby Air Ride experience, I want to go over some of the faults that Kirby Air Ride had. Going over these would help us figure out how we can improve the game. The most obvious one to me is that they designed almost every key function together to the same buttons. What I mean by this is that if you want to charge boost, then you can press either A, L, or R. If you want to use an ability, you'll have to press either A, L, or R. In the City Trial mode, you're able to hop off your air ride by holding the left stick downward and, you guessed it, press A, L, or R. If there is an area you want to float to, well, what do you know? You gotta press A, L, or R. The only move you can perform without pressing these buttons is a spin attack, which can be performed by flicking the left stick from left to right and vice versa. Now I'll admit, back then I liked the control schemes for the sheer fact that I can still play the game pretty damn well with just one hand and reserve that other hand just for a little payback if some of the players right next to me starts to gloat. But looking back now, it feels criminal that they would not make different functions tied to their own specific button. Maybe this was a way to make the game a bit more simplistic so that anyone can easily play, but the end result made the decision a bit nonsensical. If you want to attack an enemy, you will have to halt your momentum for a split second to attack. Even worse, if you were to do an attack while gliding, more so an attack that involves charging or it could be spammed, you will plummet to the ground. Even if you land an attack on the enemy, the loss in momentum is minuscule at best, making it completely unreliable at times. What Kirby Air Ride 2 would benefit from would be a slightly tweaked control scheme and overall behavior, I guess you want to say, when attacked. Now let's get started on some of the ideas for each game mode. Before I move on to the next section of this video, there is something that I noticed during the editing process. The rubber bending in this game is nauseatingly bad. I'm sorry, it's just, it being paired with the items not having a huge effect on the enemy just exasperated my feelings towards the racing aspect of this game. For a future sequel, this has to be heavily tweaked. But now, on to the next section. Air Ride mode. The standard racing mode that honestly was the weakest of the 3 modes for me due to the control schemes watering down the experience. With the improvements that were recently discussed, I think Air Ride mode would become a somewhat competent mode, but why stop there? Let's jazz up this mode, shall we? In the original Kirby Air Ride, both Air Ride mode and City Trial mode lets you play as Kirby, Meta Knight, and King Dedede. Unfortunately, King Dedede and Meta Knight are only able to use their respective weapons, with the former only being able to ride the wheelie bike and the latter not be able to ride any rides. So unfortunate for Meta Knight, he deserves better. Though I guess he has wings, so who really needs a ride? But anyways, obviously they don't have the same capability as Kirby, so it could be expected. But what I would do is make some of the abilities be attached to the Air Ride, similar to the Top Ride mode. With that in mind, I feel that some of the items in Top Ride could work well in Air Ride, such as the Freeze Fan, Buzzsaw, Missile, Kracko, Mach Speed, Speed Down, and Charge Up. The rest of the items that will be included along with the items that was already in Air Ride mode would be the Fireworks Cannon, Candy, Bomb, Proximity Bomb, Gordo, Microphone, Dark Matter, Attack Up, Defense Up, Plasma, Panic Spin, Fire, and Food. To save time, I'll make a quick explanation of each item in a short, concise way. So I know what some of y'all may be thinking, and that food seems redundant to have, and you know what? You'll be completely right. Health is non-existent in air ride mode, but if you were to race in stadium mode under city trial, you will receive a health bar, and if your health bar gets depleted, you'll momentarily be knocked out or just be completely out of the race depending on the game that you're playing in stadium. What I would do, or what I would want to have in Kirby Air Ride 2, would be to have an optional feature where you can have a health bar in race mode, which will definitely bump up the difficulty in a race for Air Ride and keep players on edge. What will differentiate this mode to City Trial Stadium mode will be that you will only momentarily be knocked out once your health meter gets depleted. In City Trial mode, it makes sense that it was designed that way since you only have to complete one lap, compared to an Air Ride where you will have multiple laps in that race. And then also, you have to factor in the fact that in Stadium mode you have versus King DDD and Kirby Melee, where it's basically a fight to the end. So it makes sense that once you lose your health, you are completely out of the whole game. But in Air Ride mode, I'm not sure if a lot of people would actually be down with just being completely knocked out of the race in the first freaking lap. So I will probably keep that as an option, but for the main portion of Air Ride mode, I would only have it where you just be momentarily knocked out of the race. Now, going off the previous idea that I discussed earlier with the abilities being tied to the Air Ride themselves, this will allow Meta Knight and King DDD to be on various Air Rides. Not only that, each character will have their own unique special ability that they could use once a meter fills up. What will affect the charge rate of the meter will be the placement that you're currently in, attacking your opponents, and the amount of health you currently have. Now, so far I have been trying to come up with some unique special abilities for Kirby, Meta Knight, and King DDD, seeing how they're the only 3 playable characters in the game. So I guess I'll just give you the quick rundown for each of them. So for Kirby, my idea for his special ability would be for him to inhale all enemies close by in a radius and shoot all the enemies behind the user, so Kirby himself. The star size and power depends on the amount of enemies inhaled. Once the star reaches a certain distance or upon impact, it will disperse all the victims. For Meta Knight, his special ability would be him using his cloak to go invisible for a short period. During the state, he can't be seen by other players, can't be located on the map, and also can't be targeted by anyone. He also gets a slight increase in speed during this state. If an enemy comes close to Meta Knight, he has the option to unleash a powerful slash to strike them down. Doing so will end this ability. Another way that this ability can be disrupted is if Meta Knight takes damage. As for King DDD, I was kind of stuck between 2 different ability choices for him, one of which will be him swinging a bigger version of his trusted hammer all around him. Any players unfortunate enough to be on the receiving end of this will take massive damage from the hammer. Pretty simple ability, and I guess it kind of works well for him because it definitely showcases his strength. But another ability that I did have in mind, which I don't know, the reason why I don't want to go with this ability is mainly because it's pretty much a ripoff of Reinhardt from Overwatch. And what I mean is that basically he slams his hammer down in front of him, and anybody that's caught in the cone radius will be temporarily stunned. And honestly, both abilities seem like they'll work pretty well for the king himself, but I guess to avoid the whole copy and paste job, the former probably would be a better option. But anyways, those are the only special abilities I have for those 3 characters, but there are other characters I do have in mind that will make a nice addition to the roster, though I think it's about time for me to swap to the next mode. Well, that was a bit of a doozy, though I promise that this session won't be as long. Anyways, Top Ride. The best way I can explain this mode is Air Ride Light, which is not a bad thing. Having a simple mode that doesn't have as much crazy stuff compared to its counterpart may have its own audience. Though I know some of you may be thinking that I sound a tad bit hypocritical since simplicity was my main complaint for the Air Ride mode, but this is how I see it. Why have a simple mode and at the same time an even more simpler mode? It'll be like if a fighting game were to have a player match and also a player match light, instead of just having a ranked match. It just doesn't make sense to me, which is why Air Ride should have the previously discussed changes while having Top Ride retain its simplicity. With Top Ride having a top-down perspective, it could make use of the Switch's capability of combining multiple screens together to create a unique way to play this mode. What could also be a nice addition for this mode would be to add level editors, which can be shared for others to use. What would carry Top Ride falls on how well the community can be when it comes to design, creativity, and the tools given to them. Oh, and another thing that would make Top Ride even better would be to increase the size of the courses just a bit. Going off the standard amount of laps for each respective courses, I normally finish on average around a minute. So yeah, just doubling the sizes, or hell, even tripling the sizes of the course can go a long way. Now on to what made this game. Sorry for the short intermission, but during the making of this video, I stumbled across a pretty funny glitch with the tornado ability. Apparently, you can do an infinite on an opponent if you get them cornered and you time the attack just right. I couldn't fully experiment and see what caused this to happen due to unfortunately not having anyone else to play with. Yeah, so don't judge me. But anyways, try it out by all means and leave a link in the comments if you're able to showcase it better, just the details on how it actually works. But now let's actually get on to the main video itself. Ah yes, City Trial, the meat and potato of Kirby Air Ride. I honestly cannot tell you how many hours I sunk into this mode. If you were to ask anyone what they remember the most from this game, more than likely you would hear City Trial as the most memorable mode. What's not to like about it? 4 players place an arena where you gather power-ups, choose a unique air ride that would benefit you for the stadium match, and while you're roaming through the city, you will encounter various events that could be chaotic, or sometimes the more mundane events. If you want to see all the events that City Trial has to offer, you can check out my Kirby Air Ride All Events video, which I will leave a link in the description down below. There's really not a lot of things that I will improve on for this mode. The only changes I would want is to make it where the red boxes containing the legendary pieces spawn anywhere on the map. It made it a bit easy to locate what are objectively the best air rides in the game. Speaking of them, Hydra needs to be nerfed. I mean, come on, that beast has way too many good things going for it compared to its legendary counterpart. Not saying that Dragoon is bad, mind you, but Hydra eclipsed it in terms of capabilities. Hydra has an enormous amount of HP, a disgusting amount of offense, can easily tank hits, and is fast as hell when it gets going. The only drawback to this chat of an air ride is its charge rate and glide, but other than that, it just exceeds in almost everywhere else. Now let me just move on before I go into details of the carnage left in this wake of destruction. Now the thing that City Trial could benefit off from is simply adding more variety and content to it. Having different maps with each one having their own unique mini bosses and events would easily spice up the mode. With each map being located in specific regions, then we can have different landscapes and terrain that would affect how we traverse the area, such as a simple flat grassy terrain from a field location, or a hazardous volcanic peak from a volcanic region. Another thing that could easily improve City Trial would just by simply increasing the player count to, I don't know, maybe 8, so that there's never a dull moment when you're roaming through these maps. As for the stadium mode, if they just aim for different kinds of matches to play, and maybe allow for more than one stadium match to be played after a game, then it honestly should be fine and dandy. Because let's think about it. Even though the prediction in City Trial, 9 times out of 10 they could be right, but other times they could just be something else, you're generally building to exceed in that one match. Let's say that you don't have the right air ride or the right build for that match, you're most likely going to taste defeat just because of some bad luck. To give the players a better chance, the game should have multiple stadium matches after City Trial and have one of those matches be predicted. Other than that, I would honestly love to fight some of the other villains and bosses in the Kirby series besides the king himself. So what do you guys think? Did you like some of the ideas and improvements presented in this video? Do you have any personal suggestions that would be great for a Kirby Air Ride sequel? Remember to leave a comment down below, and also share this video with others that have been itching for another Kirby Air Ride game. Anyways, Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.